I'm going to do a quick overview. I assume everybody is familiar with Fallout. Fallout began development in very early of '94. I don't exactly remember when development started because I was actually assigned to other projects. I was doing installers, critical sound handlers, or critical error handlers, sound codes for games like Stonekeep. In my spare time, though, I was working on an engine. That kind of grew into Fallout. I realized '94 is a long time. So to remind you guys what was going on, the channel opened between England and France, and it was very popular. A large comet hit Jupiter. Jupiter was okay. And Friends debuted on NBC and was very popular, and Phoebe was my favorite character. So Fallout shipped in October of '97. It took about 3.5 years to make. To put you in the mindset, when it shipped, the games on the shelves were Total Annihilation, which is a top-down RTS, Quake 2, the sequel to Quake 1, very popular game, you may have heard of it, and UO had just shipped. And this is one of the first pictures that comes up if you Google UO. This is Lord British being pwned by a bunch of players. The team size for Fallout, when we started, it was just me. When we shipped, it was about 30 people. I say about 30. It never really had a staff assignment in any official way, and that's what I'll talk to you about in a few minutes. One of the challenges in getting this game made. The total budget was about $3 million. Again, I don't really know. It never had a budget. I never did budget work. It never had really a development plan made for it. Very unusual the way Fallout was made. It was not your typical Interplay game. At the time Fallout was being made, Interplay owned several licenses, Star Trek and D&D, and we had no license on Fallout. In fact, we had no design spec on Fallout. It was just me working on an engine. We didn't use one of the many engines available. We had the Infinity engine available to us from BioWare. We were beginning work on Torment. I just kind of wanted to make my own engine. Nobody said no. That's the way things worked. The way things worked at Interplay in the '90s. So I just started writing an engine. There was no budget, like I said. I was named the producer, but I really didn't go to producer meetings. They called me a project leader. That just meant that I had to write a report once a week saying what was going on. But I didn't go to producer meetings. I didn't write any reports, and I didn't do anything but sit in my office and work on a game engine. There was no staff, at least at the beginning. Talk about how we staffed up. A lot of work was done over pizza at night after people were supposed to go home. It was the only time I was allowed to talk to people because they were assigned to other projects, and other producers were getting upset if I came by and talked to their guys about anything. So what I would do is I would buy a pizza, go sit in the conference room around 6:30. My name is Tim Kane. I worked on Fallout 1 when it was at Interplay for 3.5 years from '94 to '97. I was the producer, the lead programmer, and one of the several designers on the team. There was no plan written for this game. There was no specs written. It was really a seat-of-the-pants kind of development. So in this post-mortem, I've divided it up into several sections. If there's a takeaway I want you to have, though, it's that the team I worked with was absolutely amazing. And I'll talk about them as I go through the post-mortem, and I'm going to try to call out individual accomplishments that people did. I tried to remember who worked on what feature and who thought of what cool idea that made it into the game, and even if we did it. But it has been 18 years, so I may not remember all of them, and I know some people who worked on it in the audience, and they're going to keep me honest. The first thing I want to do, because it's a common question I get asked, is what influences were there on the game? Why did we end up making Fallout the way we did? I'll talk about books and games and movies that we really like. I'm going to talk about challenges. The theme of this talk was almost the game that was almost never made. It was almost canceled twice, one of which you may have heard about, one of which you almost certainly didn't. It was just a very rocky road to get this game produced. And finally, I'm going to try to, if I have time, I'll talk about the legacy, some features I see in games now that were not common at all when Fallout was made. So let me start with influences. I broke those up into computer games, paper and pencil and board games, books, and movies. We were a very media spongy group. People every day would talk about, I just saw this movie or I just read this book. And we're not even talking recent ones. I have stuff going back to the 50s and people would come in and go, I just found this book in a used bookstore. We've got to put a town in based on this book. So the computer games, Wasteland of course, can't say this strongly enough. Fallout is very much a spiritual successor to Wasteland. Almost everybody who played the game or who worked on Fallout has played Wasteland. When we started, I had not played it. So of course somebody gave me a copy, said go home this weekend, and I was addicted to it, played it all the time. Kind of hard playing it on a more recent computer because if you've ever tried playing it, it goes too quickly. You have to put in a speed limiter, otherwise you shoot across the screen when you're trying to play. But this game had everything in it that we wanted to have in Fallout, including no strict morality like the Ultimate games had. We wanted the player to be good or evil, do anything he wanted, go anywhere he wanted, and be only really restricted by how skillful he was at playing a game. And then, having mentioned the Ultimate series as a game full of morality, it was a big influence on our team. For me especially, this is a picture of Ultimate 3. It was the first Ultimate game I played. I'd never played 1 or 2, and it just stuck in my head as this is the way an RPG should be made. And while Fallout doesn't have a lot in common with Ultima, it really guided how I thought about making an RPG.